What's she doing?
She's doing something, whatever he does.
Yep.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, she doesn't have a family situation that can allow her.
Oh.
No, she's got 3 kids, 2 twins who are very young, and she's like one of the
Any
men
outlets?
Her dad who has MS. So
Yes.
What is wrong? That outlet doesn't work. It didn't actually working. I plugged in the computer and it was not working. The only other one I see is back here. Unfortunately. Isn't that absurd?
Well, my daughter's birthday.
Let's see if this works.
So it's like, I'm not gonna like.
Yeah.
Hi.
Uh-huh.
I was telling her about this, and she's like, Rachel's Tuesday, and I was like, Rachel's going, I was like, I know. Yeah, every time I talk to Rachel, say, I know, but
I always tell people that she hired me too.
yeah, and she's like, I know I met her like 10 years ago.
But she did. She was the first person to hire me.
She takes a lot of credit.
I will take that. I'll claim her all day long.
I'm obsessed with Walmart now, and I need Walmart.
At least I can
I
learn.
don't shop there, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, they're not.
I wonder if that, I'm gonna try that again. But no one is, 2 viewers. Hi, everyone. We're just getting started. Hang on just 2 seconds. I'll. Fine, so.
I can't see them. How come?
Because we're doing it live so we can record and post.
Ah, okay. Can they hear us?
I believe so. No one has chatted in the window.
Yes.
Can you hear us? I don't know, I think so. But I see that there are 6 viewers
So then I'm
there.
working Thursday, Friday at our office.
But that's our way of making
You
sure
say
that.
enough people, we have 26, what happened to the rest of them? They're not
Yeah,
joining?
so.
Yeah, probably.
They are, they're not.
So we just gained 1 more, 7, but no one is responding. So I assume they're there, though. I'll keep an eye on it.
So how are they gonna see us when you take it out?
So we should email them, and I can email them that right now. I'll forward them the email.
Yeah, I just made a reservation. I leave on Friday, get there on Saturday. Central Palace. Somebody is staying in that hotel. That's only what I knew. It doesn't. I'm gonna stay with somebody else.
Am I starting or are you starting?
You want me to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, shall we get started? Okay, so thank you for making the time to come. I know it's a long track from Beaverton, B-Town, Beaverton. You hear me from Beaverton? How did you get here? You drove from where?
Yeah, I just parked in Sunset, then they came by.
That's what we did.
Alright, so that's it. Alright. So what we want to do tonight is really get a couple things accomplished One is give you as much in-depth view into what the trip is all about. Yeah, so we have this global trip orientation. So I'm just gonna thumb through them and go slowly. Otherwise, my Chinese will take over. You don't want to do that. And also introduce my colleagues. And then I'll turn the table back to Rachel. Then she's gonna go through the logistics, making sure the passport, the visa, the hotel, safety, right? Dress code, all that important stuff,
The fun stuff.
right? Does that sound good? Yeah. Yep, and I didn't bring my clicker, so I'm just gonna fly here. Okay, whoa, deliverable right off the bat. Isn't that, that's bad, that's okay. All right, so, can they hear me?
I think so.
Can they hear me? Okay, all right. If they cannot hear me, that's a problem, right? So, deliverable, first of all, make sure you go to the D2L. There's a lot of stuff being posted, right? So we got video, we have the syllabus, we have all the readings, so everything's kind of come together, being broken down, designed very nicely, I thought. So that is additional to that. This is kind of summarizing what we're gonna do. That sound good? So deliverable before the trip, due August 8th, individually, each one of you gonna email me a 2-page summary of what's your expectation from the trip, right? For the upcoming trip. August 8th, you have time. Don't worry, 2-page. I don't care. So this is really after tonight, after the pre-meeting, after you do some reading, after you understand what we're going to do, then you kind of have an idea. So I want you to be able to find out what else you're expecting from the trip. Okay? So that's the first piece. So email me on August 8th. If not on August 9th, I'll be a mean guy. Start emailing you guys. Where's your paper? Where's your paper? Then the second piece during the trip. So the first piece during the trip is that Friday afternoon, we're going to have a presentation at the hotel. Okay? You'll be put into the team, you'll be assigned to a factory, and you're going to present what you learn about the factory, what's your evaluation of the factory. Okay? And I'll give you the agenda, what other factory we're going to be visiting, how you intend to assign. Okay? In addition to that, there'll be individual reflection assignment every day, right? Each one of you are going to write one pager. Just don't tell me the bus ride is long. That's not what we're expecting, right? You cannot have 5 long bus rides every day and that's your reflection paper. Oh, the food was great. Oh, that was boring. No. The factory is clean, but it's not so good. No. We've gone through all that, right? So it's really what do you take away from each day? Because each day will be different events, right? A few days. There are days that will visit different types of facility and you get a different perspective on it. Okay? The key thing about the trip in Vietnam is you need to develop your own supplier selection methodology, right? So on the D2L, we uploaded the HP article. HP using their own supplier selection methodology, and you have a copy of that. You can use that if that's what you want. But my feeling is based on the sourcing class that you took in the fall term with that paper, you should be able to come up your own. And the reason that I insist on you thinking about coming up your own is oftentimes in your own career, especially in the head honcho, you're going to come up your own methodology for your own group anyway. So this will be a good way for you to test that, right? Say, hey, if you come up this methodology, if you take that to work to the factory, is it going to really work or not? Of course, you need help if you mess it up and you have nothing to be said on Friday. So hopefully you'll have something that's pretty decent. Any questions so far during the trip in terms of what to do? Pretty straightforward, right? Lots of learning on the trip.
Is the daily one just turn it in every day or is it?
Friday.
Oh, the Friday.
Yeah. So I know some of you probably will have one too many alcohol. They would say alcohol, no, we didn't say alcohol. One or too many local drinks and may not be able to complete your ride-up. So you'll keep your chance to catch up. Okay? So that's what happens during the trip. Next piece, after the trip, let's talk about after the trip. After the trip, while we're in China, I'll give you a final assignment. Okay? Why I'm such a nice guy that I don't need the paper until after the trip is most likely you're going to need to do some research after you come back. Okay? So let me give you a hint. You still have something to do with Amazon. Can you guys hear me online? You still have something to do with Amazon, okay? Your final case. But not Walmart. But it'll be Amazon. And hopefully you know what that is, if you could guess. So I will be requiring a 5-page business case analysis. So most likely conversation, something along the line, how's Amazon doing in China versus whatever. But I'm not giving you a full assignment yet. So I'm going to get you thinking about Amazon. It's good time to start gathering information about Amazon now, right? What's their international business all about? Most likely I'll put you in a team of 2. I know I'll be having a lot of people to grade. That'll be like 26 divided by 2. That'll be 13 papers to grade. I think I'm okay. 5 pages. And then at the end, there'll be a final reflection paper, 2 pages max, individual. And this final reflection paper should somehow tie back to your initial expectation, right? Because if you expected X and Y at the end, then you see X and Y, then you see actually you saw Z. A, B, C through Z, A through Z, that's what we prefer to see. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's pretty light in terms of how much you have to write. So I will be grading you pretty hard on the business case, hard stuff, right? I'll be grading you on the presentation pretty hard. The daily reflection, as long as it's not about bus ride and good food or bad food, that tend to be okay. Fair enough? Okay, all right, let me move on. Ding, 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 ding.
You want me to?
Rachel, you should have the computer facing the other way, so it has Daniel in the background.
Well, if it faces this way, actually, the camera is facing this way. They want to see him. Yes, they do. They've got the PowerPoint in front of them.
Sure. All right, pre-trip homework. I think it would be very helpful if you can, find more reading material. Read about both Vietnam and China, in particular Ho Chi Minh City and Beijing, because those are the 2 primary cities that we'll be visiting. Want to read, highly recommend you read about the history for both places, right? Vietnam is interesting, the fact that it's being colonized by French. Chinese has a huge, influence in the culture. Why? Right? And, when you get there, when you start eating local, talking to local people, you get a sense from the local people that what's their preference in terms of dealing with folks coming from overseas. So they prefer to deal with people from Taiwan versus people from China versus people from US, from Europe, other part of the world. You get a sense, and you can only understand that if you read a little bit of their histories. Economy is interesting because, as most of you know, Beijing and Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, both are still communist country. So their economy are kind of centrally planned, but you will notice when you go to Beijing that China is opening up quite a bit more. But is that true? You be the judge. And then when you go to Vietnam, you see the hustling and bustling. So is that really communist control or is it really free market? So you'll be the judge on that, right? In terms of business, this is an important one to know. What's the role of the government in those countries, right? A lot of time in Asia, a lot of business are family run, family owned. So you might see a little shop with a lot of inventory sitting in there. Sometimes you wonder how do they support the whole family of the gazillion people, right? But they do. And what does that do? If you are a foreign-owned enterprise trying to enter the market, selling through retail, what is the retail environment looks like? Right, Nike, for example, kind of interesting. I don't know if they still do that or not. Your distributor in Vietnam is actually a Singapore owned. So the product is actually from China to Singapore and back to Vietnam. It's kind of interesting, right? So the shoe factory in Vietnam, I don't think they sell those shoes in Vietnam. I think it goes outside and come back. Right? It's pretty expensive if you think about it. So why can't you even sell what you make local? Why do you have to go outside and come back? I think they're trying to fix that, but it's not a big of a deal for them at this point. It's not a high priority. So those are kind of stuff that you guys could look into. In terms of the government, you're going to get a different sense when you go to Beijing versus going to Vietnam. you're gonna get a better sense which country is trying to attract the foreign investment. Who's a lot more open to wanting the US company or the European company coming to invest. You be the judge of that, okay? This is where the real deep learning occurs, right? When you go out to dinner in the evening, talk to local people, watch how the shop operates, you get a much better sense than just reading the book. All right, next. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So in China, I remember reading that we're taking like a bullet train or something. What place are we gonna go to?
I'll give you the detail on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's coming. All right, so 2 quick business frameworks to share. It wouldn't be me if I don't share 2 by 2 of business frameworks. You guys should know it by now, right? I'm pretty hardcore about business framework. So this is about global business. Oh, I forgot, my bad. I need to introduce my cohort here. Jay Hornberry, he's a former senior VP from Honeywell. We are very fortunate to have him to be part of our adjunct faculty. So he teaches in our program. Some of you will see him later on next year. But he's coming with us this trip. And you all know Rachel. Rachel is a director of graduate business office or services, a program, all the above. She's been running this for a long time. She's probably the most talented person when it comes to this international planning. It's a lot of work.
Daniel's full of it.
No, it's a lot of
He
work.
needs to tell this group that.
No, it is a lot of work. It's not easy having to navigate or manage so many programs for our school. But now she has, in addition to the international traveling, now she also manages the graduate school business. So when you go into the school business, you know, you have your recruiter, admission director, and you have your advisor. Those are all now reporting to Rachel. All right, so back to the global business frameworks. Think globally, right? You know, we think about Nike. When Nike trying to expand the business, where do they go? Which market do they go, right? Especially think about Mercedes-Benz, right? Mercedes-Benz is a luxury item. Why did they decide to go to Vietnam? Okay, why do they decide to go to Vietnam? What's their strategy? And making strategic decision. How is Mercedes-Benz making the right decision so that their product can be competitive in the local market? Think about that. Now, some of you are going to say, well, Mercedes-Benz is a luxury item. The local people don't have the money to buy. It's actually slow. How is BMW selling their product in Vietnam? How is Lexus selling their product in Vietnam? How is Audi selling their product in Vietnam? Right? So why is Mercedes winning? Why others are not winning? So think about that. As you think about taking a business from your homeland into a foreign country, what else do you need to have in order to compete successfully? So oftentimes, the bullet number 3, innovate, that's really about the deal, right? So it's like, what does the deal need to look like? What's the structure need to look like? How are you gonna make this thing work? Sometimes you might have to talk about joint venture. Sometimes you might have to talk about, you know, the local government owns 51%, you might own 49%. But how do you control the brand if the government owns 51%? Those are the type of questions you guys should be thinking about asking Mercedes-Benz and other foreign-owned companies when you go over there. Okay? And what's the right solution for that? Lastly, as you go into a global business environment, a foreign place, if you have a partner, what is it that you want out of this? Are you trying to enter a new market? Are you trying to go after market share? Are you trying to go after talents? What is it that you're going after? So question for, since we have 2 Nike in the room here, and I don't know how many on the call, why is Nike entering Vietnam? That's a good legitimate question, right? What's in it for Nike? If you're talking about absolute dollars, I don't think that's that significant. Right? So why is Nike in Vietnam? Why is Nike trying to do it? Are they trying to blanket the market, trying to position themselves so that Adidas and other brands doesn't have a play in that market? So that's a global business framework. Mainly go to next. Next, this is your vendor selection. Make sure in your vendor selection framework that you're going to develop or you're going to borrow this deal. That's fine. Make sure they are qualitative as well as quantitative, right? Qualitative is basically, you can go in there and you love to talk to people, and you should be able to say, yeah, I think they do have a lean practice in place. Yeah, I do think they have a TQM management. But when it comes to the quantitative, I think it's more some of the things that you should be able to see on the wall, right? So they should be plotting what's their on-time delivery, what's their fill rate, what's the defects rate, right? What's the production goal for the day, for the week. Especially you go to a shop that is lean, they should have all the daily production goals listed, right? You should be able to see their TQM charts, quality charts up there. Okay, any questions on the vendor selection framework? You guys should be quite familiar from the sourcing class. Okay, just make sure you have both the qualitative and quantitative. Okay, next. All right, so now for the next 2 slides is quickly high level. And then after that, I'll give you the detail day by day. Because we just had our call yesterday with the logistic company. We think we are about 90% close. That is not going to change, but there's always a 10%. All right, week 1 in Ho Chi Minh City, obviously we'll be visiting factory, right? You need to do your daily journal. And then that Friday, we have a presentation. So far, so good. That's your week 1. Thanks. And week 2, you'll be in Beijing. Now here, I specifically want you to pay attention to the sensitive nature of being in Beijing. Why am I so paranoid about that? Because when you're in Beijing, especially when you walk into Tiananmen Square, you guys remember what happened in Tiananmen Square? There was a student protest, right? So there are a lot of police, a lot of people that are watching foreigners, right? So we need to make sure we do not discuss politics, bring up anything about Xi Jinping, about arrests, any of that stuff. And don't talk about the bad air either. They didn't like it because last year I was poking at Jerry, the guy that I haven't seen Blue Sky. I don't think he appreciated that comment, right? So we need to be a little bit mindful that they're very sensitive to the Beijing pollution. They're very sensitive when you walk around Tiananmen Square. Any reference to the protest, they don't like it. So just be mindful that you can be watched at any given point, right? So just don't talk about any of that stuff. Anything to add, Rachel?
I mean, I know it's the next thing on the list, but in addition to censorship of what you're saying, censorship of what you bring on your computer. So really, actually, if you're bringing work computers for those, almost all of you that work, make sure that nothing sensitive is on them. You truly are, if you're going to use them for internet access, I would just clear them beforehand, and then you'll want to clear them right when you get back. Just be mindful of that.
Not your phone, do you want to like remove some apps that are all your pictures?
Yep, if you're going to be using your phones there as well. And expect slowdowns, expect not, so it changes a little bit from year to year. I've been there, it had been a couple of years since I had been back, and this past year Gmail did not work at all. Some years it works a little bit. So it just depends upon the year. And usually what's going on in town, to be honest, if there are government meetings, that might be one reason why things get pushed down a little bit more, so.
Is there a Maps app that you recommend that's not, doesn't use Google Maps?
So you can, in Google Maps, you can download city maps now ahead of time. So download the city apps and the entire map before you actually get there, and it'll still GPS now. They changed that on Google Maps recently, so.
This would be dumb. I was going to use Google Translate. Is there like a good non-Google version of that?
So in Google Translate, again, if you download it ahead of time, it should still work, I think.
Because they also have like the photo one where you can
Yes.
use the camera and it'll translate, and I'm assuming that.
Mine still worked last year, so as long as you download it ahead of time, yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna feel really relaxed, have a lot of fun, high energy in Ho Chi Minh City, and then you go to Beijing. It's like, okay, Daniel is trying to climb us down. No, it's not me. It's really the environment. It's just Beijing is the capital of China. A lot of all the powerful people are there. So, and we're very close. Our hotel is not that far from Tiananmen Square. Literally walking.
Super close.
Super close. So okay. Just be mindful of that. Let's see, what else I can get. And that's one of the reasons why we don't have any assignment due in Beijing that quick. I still want to stress you guys out. It's by design. That's why I say no research, right? Just come home, you got plenty of time to research your 5 days, whatever you need to do. Fair enough? So you're gonna have a lot of fun in Beijing as well, but I just wanted to call that out. Last thing in Beijing, because we live right in the Wangfujing, grain shopping is also the place where people buy fake goods. Be very mindful. If you're gonna buy fake goods, you buy too many of those and you bring them home. If you get caught at the US Customs border, they're gonna make you pay 5 times of the full retail price on that. You buy a fake Rolex, they're gonna make you pay up to yin if they catch you. So my recommendation is avoid doing that stuff because it's not worth it.
You're either gonna pay or you're gonna be sitting in immigration for a long
It's very
time.
tempting. It's very tempting, right? So I just want to call that out now. Is they're gonna tempt you with Rolex, and they're gonna tempt you with fake iPhone, right? So the way it works, iPhone is this: they're gonna come up to you, hey, see this iPhone? You like it? You have an iPhone? Look, and then they ask you to scroll. It works. It's a real iPhone in their hand. I'd like to sell you one for $50 US. iPhone 7. The one in his hand is working. How come I know it's he? It's working, and he said, you want to buy it brand new, $50. And then of course he's gonna get your attention, unlock, right? He said, here, let me give you a brand new one. So he's gonna go reach in his backpack and brand new one. $50, okay? And then he's gonna stuff that into your backpack, wherever. Give me $50, police come and give me money. And then as soon as you put the money into your hand, he runs ahead, you're not gonna find him again, and then when you go back to your hotel, oh, guess what? I bought a brand new iPhone, yeah! Open it up, it's a break. It's a break. You just got a break. This down thing does not work. That's the worst scenario, right? You got ripped off $50 for something that doesn't work. Right? One of my students, not this year, one of my undergrad did not believe me, he went, and then he came back and said, Daniel, Chef, listen, here's a break that I got, $50. I said, okay. I should have brought that with me to show you what the break looks like, so you won't fall into the trap. All right, so Beijing, crazy stuff. All right, move on. All right, so now I'm gonna give you the detail. So most of you are gonna arrive Sunday night, really late, 11:50 or so. There will be a bus if you're coming in on that flight.
Yeah, I'll talk through that in a little bit.
Yeah. So anyhow, they will take you to the hotel. We're gonna be staying at Carnival, right? Carnival. It's a very nice hotel. You're gonna love it. We're gonna start out the day at 9 o'clock in the morning. They have full breakfast, so I recommend that you be down there at 8 o'clock. Full breakfast, nice breakfast. You're gonna love it. It is international. Do not miss breakfast. It's an international cuisine, right? Lots of fresh food, Asian as well as American, European. So you're gonna love it. I love that. Anyhow, so in the morning, I'll give you an hour of what we're gonna see that week and make sure to put you in the right team and talk a little bit about stuff. And then you're gonna hear from a great speaker coming from the local supply chain. It's equivalent to our ISN. They have their own local supply chain group. One of the co-founders, Julian, he has a tremendous knowledge. He's basically a consulting firm, so he sells his service to foreign nationals, right? So if you're trying to go to Vietnam, open up a factory, you will most likely hire his company to do the legwork for you, looking for a spot, tell you what's going on. So he's gonna give that to you, talk to you for 2 hours. Awesome, great guy, okay? After that, we're gonna go restaurant, right? We buy lunch. Nice, and we buy lunch. And then we're gonna hop on the motor coach right in front of the hotel, and then they're gonna give us a tour of the local, and hopefully also take us down to the Chinatown and come back. So it most likely will end somewhere close to 4 o'clock. So when we come back, we're gonna do a pharmacy run, and that's the day. Because most of you will be pretty exhausted by then, and so you're probably gonna go eat, gonna get coughing, headache, whatever, complaining, whining. You guys are gonna have no, not whining.
Well, so I will just say I know a lot of people were nervous about our first day and getting there late because you get there late that first night. We do design the first day. It's
Very
where
light.
you are. You'll be up in the morning. It's critical to get through the afternoon if you want to get on schedule. So we're trying to help you out get through the afternoon so you don't go to bed too early. But getting through this first day.
Yeah, it's tough. That's why I'm making so light.
Do we need long shirts or pants for the temple visit that's on there?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So you will always and we'll talk more about kind of dress expectations both in the factory scenarios and then in casual scenarios, but you'll always, especially for women, if you have sleeveless things, those are fine, especially in Ho Chi Minh as you're walking around. But if you're going to go to a temple or anything else, you are going to want to be able to cover up.
So I'm gonna do a little plug for Nike, even though my Nike student did not give me any student pass. That's kind of bad. That's right. The best thing to wear in both countries, I find, and I was the one that everybody said, "You're so smart." Remember last year? Because I used to play golf, and I don't play anymore because I realized that that's a waste of time and money. Golf gear from Nike best. It's a dry fit pants, golf shirt dry fit. It works like a charm. You will always be cool.
So moisture wicking.
Yeah.
Remember that it's going to be humid. In addition to being hot, it's going to be humid. So if folks don't like humidity, just prepare yourselves.
Yep.
There's air conditioning in all of the
Everywhere,
hotels, in the buses, but the buses do get warm when they're sitting there waiting for you. So it takes them a while to cool back down. So
Except restaurant.
except for restaurants, and also the elevators in the carousel is always so you just want to get in and out of the elevators as quickly as possible.
But we stay at a 5-star hotel, so if you don't like that, it's really nothing can beat that.
What about water? I heard that, you gotta be careful with water.
Yeah, you should buy bottled water. So there's a convenience store right next to the hotel. So that's usually the first thing that we recommend doing is the second you get in, after you check into the hotel, just run to the convenience store. It's open all hours and grab some water. But yeah, I will say I have become less cavalier over the years traveling because you pay for it once, right? And then you're done with it. But so most people brush their teeth using bottled water, unless you're from there or it's just your stomachs are not going to like it. So save yourself. Food, I have never had any major issues. You will have, so at the hotel, there is a ton of fresh fruit. There's a ton of, and it's excellent at the hotel. I get a little more iffy when you go out. So wanting to make sure that things are cooked is always a safe idea. People can be as conservative or as adventurous as you want. We definitely recommend being more conservative on the front end, testing your stomach slowly, right? I also highly recommend, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in packing, if you've ever been sick before, or even if you haven't gotten travel sick before, bring extra Cipro, go to your doctor, get a stomach antibiotic that you can take, and make sure that you have stomach antibiotics and an anti-nausea, because if you get sick, that those stomach antibiotics are only going to help you if you can keep them down. So you want to have both of those. So I always just ask for extra. Cipro is easy to get, actually in Vietnam in particular, especially when you go to that local pharmacy, and our guide will take you to the local pharmacy. So it's sold over the counter, so it's pretty easy to get that there. But I definitely recommend having it on hand before you go. It's not, most of your doctors, you tell them you're traveling, they'll give it to you. So that's definitely something.
I got bit by orange juice once, and that was the most miserable day of my entire life.
I have been on trips where 9 out of 11 of us were not good.
And I was in a 5-star, just like this, it was in Taipei, in a 5-star hotel, and so you never know what's going to bite you.
You don't know.
So you still drink orange juice at restaurant or at hotels now, or does it put you off?
I don't know. It depends on how I feel, but no, it makes you sick.
Well, yeah, that's what I wonder. Is like, does it make you so nervous that you know?
Not nervous, it just makes you aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aware of the
And I
risks
wanted
you
to catch
take.
back up on something else. He said, so I was in Beijing once, and I went back to my chief of security, and I said, I feel like I've been being watched. He goes, you shouldn't feel like you're being watched, you are being watched. So you should just assume that.
Yeah. And we don't say that to
To scare
be
you. It's just-
sensational, it just is the way it is,
It
right?
is the
And
way
it's
it is.
easier to talk about it now. And for Daniel and Jay to give you a little reminder right before you get on the plane to go to Beijing, like just a reminder, be mindful of what you're saying about government, especially within earshot of other folks, right? So that you don't have to have those conversations in country and remind folks, it's just easier to do it up front.
So when you're talking about like sensitive information on phones and computers, like if you don't have anything that you're talking badly about China or the government or anything like that, like if you just have regular work stuff, or like pictures of your kids.
I would just be careful of any proprietary information.
Just worry about if your Nike stuff gets stolen, that's all.
Yep, exactly.
But you say, hey, my kid picture, my family, I don't care, and that's fine, because that's yours, right? But Nike was not sure about Nike policy, right? I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and so a lot of companies, so I would check in with your company's IT departments and say, do you have any policies around going to China and taking work laptops to China? Because a lot of companies actually do have policies about that. They'll either wipe it or help you in that process beforehand. So yeah, I would just double check.
So these daily reports that we have to turn in, are they by email or how the daily reports that we have to do? Are those sent to you by email or?
In Vietnam only,
Only.
in China, I don't expect you to email me anything, right? Because I know, you just don't forget about it. That's not, don't try to go to D2L. It's not gonna work, I know that, right? So in China, we're not gonna go D2L, you're not gonna email assignment, any of that stuff, right? We're just gonna go like what we talked, right? We're just gonna go. I'll remind you Friday before Vietnam, make sure that you know, because we're pretty much kind of on autopilot in Beijing, not trying to bring up more computers like that.
I thought there was like a Chinese version of,
Searching.
like FaceTime, right?
WeChat.
WeChat,
That's it.
WeChat or
Yeah.
Line. Line works as well, I think there, and
Viber.
And WhatsApp.
Viber, I use Viber.
I use Viber a lot.
WhatsApp has
Yeah,
worked there
WhatsApp.
too, yep.
Oh, FaceTime?
FaceTime will work in a hotel, so if you're on a Wi-Fi
Yeah,
and you want to call home, by the way, I talked to Verizon today, and Vietnam is not on the Verizon
Yep.
plan.
that's correct.
China and Japan are. But, so I'll be on FaceTime.
So in China, the Google search engine doesn't work, then we can work with Baidu. Baidu is there available in? Baidu is the Chinese company.
Yeah, I mean, you can, it'll work, kind of. It just depends. So you can try. Again, like I said, it's been different every single time I've been.
Yeah.
And it's different between Shanghai and Beijing. Beijing is always harder, and it's dependent upon the year. So last year was the worst year I've seen
Mhm.
during the times I've been going. And I don't know if that was just because we were closer, because we hit meetings, what it was, but so I don't know what you might be able to get on this
So
year.
there's really no reason, because I'm not requiring you to get online or anything, just make sure you bring paper and pencil. We're gonna go back to the analog, when we go visit, we write something there.
Yeah.
That's not trying to pound something to the computer.
How about WhatsApp? Is that working in China? WhatsApp?
I'm analog.
Yes,
I'm
it
old
does,
school.
especially, yeah, it does.
Well, one of the
I used
requirements,
it
one of
last
the requirements was to bring a phone, right? Like, does it have to just have text capability, or do you actually need to?
So we ask that you have both. Text is critical, but you could get just a text package, right? And then just pay, knowing that phone, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But yeah, absolutely. So everyone will need to have capability. And so most packages you can pay for, like, it depends. I think on Verizon, I've switched between Verizon and AT&T. A couple times you can get like 100 text package, and you could just pay for that. And then just knowing that your phone calls would be
Expensive.
pretty expensive,
Expensive.
but you probably don't need to use that.
$1.79 a minute on Verizon.
Because I'm looking at switching my phone plan. I don't have iPhone. I don't do that, so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much off the grid, so.
Anybody else?
So
T-Mobile.
you can also, the other option that we'll talk about is you can, and I'll be sending out a survey shortly. I know you've gotten lots of surveys from me, but it will have information for if you want to purchase. Most people just choose to activate their international plan on their primary carrier. That's the easiest thing to do, to be honest.
It's $10 on Verizon for China and Japan, and $1.79 a minute in Vietnam, and $5 on text.
Yeah, and most of them on AT&T now, I think it's, yeah.
You can buy a burner too if you want.
Yep, and so that's what, we'll give some options that you can buy a burner ahead of time and buy a local SIM if you want to. Again, I think it's easier. Some students choose to do that, and that's totally fine. That's an acceptable option. The main thing to be mindful of in that case, though, is that if you don't have any phone and something goes awry in your process getting into country and you haven't actually purchased that yet, some students will purchase that in the airport. You have no way of letting us know what's happening. Obviously, we have your flights. That's why we've been asking for those. So if anything goes awry, we can hunt you down, try to help you. But just be mindful of that if you choose to wait until in country to purchase that.
All right, so Monday is easy, right? Bring you guys in. You get a lay of the land. You know where things are. You know how to get food, go shopping, whatever. If you want a tailor, that's probably should go to Monday night. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to pick it up. All this all tailored. You like them all? Very cheap, very good price. But you gotta go Monday night, otherwise you won't be able to pick them up on Friday.
Yeah,
Okay?
and they
So
get.
if you want to,
good
I'll give you the address. All that good stuff. All right, Tuesday, we're gonna hit you really hard. Tuesday, we're gonna hit you hard. And there's a reason why we work so hard. Our partner worked so hard to arrange it the way we want. So Tuesday, we're taking you outside of Ho Chi Minh City to this new city called Binh Duong. Just outside north, a little bit, an hour. This is where, when Vietnam opened up the economy after the fall of Saigon, the first foreign country they looked to grow the economy was Singapore. So VISIP is a Vietnamese Singapore industrial park. So they opened up these industrial parks, right? It's 50-50 between the joint venture between Singapore government and Vietnam to attract foreign company to come to open factory in the park. So you see the build out of the infrastructure, the companies. You guys follow me? That's how foreign money comes. And then the people that participated in the visit, one of the member is Beckon Max. And Beckon Max, once they figure out how they do it, they're competing with Visa. They open up their own government-sponsored industrial park. That's where the second visit is, right? I mean, the first visit is a Beckon Max. So we're gonna go to this university called EIU, Eastern International University. That university has some tie with Portland State. When they launched this university a few years ago, they invited a former president, Provost President of PSU, he retired, Michael Reardon, to go there to be the president. And our supply chain program undergrads, Professor Fletcher, my former boss, he's over there teaching. Yeah, isn't that interesting? So we have very close tie with this school, and they are also funded by Beckon Max. So it's good to have a very important friend in Vietnam. So we love this, right? So you get to go see how Singapore and Vietnam government work together. You see how the local top 1% and the government work together. It's a great opportunity for you to see. It's really, you're gonna blow your mind away at what they're thinking. Very great, right? So Tuesday, we really now for you to see about how aggressive Vietnam is for foreign investment. Okay, right. You'll be tired. All right, day three. See, now we're stepping it up. Day three, we love this, Mercedes-Benz. Okay, we're talking about that, right? We don't have the clock, we don't have the time slot yet. Most likely we'll start at 8 o'clock. So eat your breakfast from 7 to 8 and we'll hop on the bus and off we go. Because everywhere you go in Vietnam is at least 1 hour. Just pulling out the bus is 20 minutes. It's true, right?
Yeah, we have to talk about that.
To make sure 26 of you all get on the bus and pulling out and not running people over, that's 20 minutes, I tell you. It's every day, you know? That's why we have to start 8 o'clock. We're gonna go Mercedes-Benz. They give you full access. You get to talk to the GM. This is like, it's incredible. Make sure you have lots of questions. Right? Ask a lot of supply chain questions there. And then in the afternoon, instead of going to Adidas, because Adidas is not available, not because of you two, but because they have a meeting, they could not host us, so we're gonna go see another local supplier. Saigon contact letter. Okay? All right, so that's your Wednesday. And then Wednesday afternoon, there will be also another pharmacy one. Okay? So we'll do that as a schedule so that you need stuff. All right, go on. Next.
Because
Thursday,
you laugh, but it's going to happen. People will get colds, people will start feeling it, you'll forget something. It's needed.
Okay, on Thursday, also busy to visit. In the morning, we go to DHL supply chain. You're gonna see a lot of interesting stuff going there. DHL is a, what kind of, who owns that? Who owns that? What's DHL stand for?
It's Deutschland, it's German.
Right, so foreign MNC operating in Vietnam, you can take a look at the product and you can tell Jay and I, who are the customer, who are they servicing, right? Very interesting stuff. That area is very congested. So that's in the morning, and then we'll go eat. And then in the afternoon, we're gonna go stop by another footwear company. Now, we specifically asking for them to take us to a local shop, not necessarily the US or the international standard. You might see child labor, you might see unclean facility, whatever. And Rachel is gonna remind us to.
I'm sorry, I was just reading people's
Yeah.
responses.
When we go to see a local factory where the conditions are not what we expect, how should we act?
We're gonna be mindful of the questions that we ask and be respectful, right? So if there are things that you probably have questions about and it's probably going to offend someone, hold that conversation for when you get out of that factory, right?
Like
That's
child
where, that's where our bus conversations are more important. So be mindful of that in any scenario, right? We want to be mindful, respectful guests so that we can be re-invited to these places for years to come. And if you have questions that you even question whether you should ask them there, hold them back and ask Jay and Daniel on the bus, right? And if you want a local perspective, we have local guides with us who will be able and willing to engage in those conversations too from a local perspective, but in that container of the bus or the classroom. So.
You're not gonna be at risk, but just putting on the Western lens, you say, hey, I'm not so sure we should be doing business with this type of supply. Well, you can reflect that on Friday afternoon when you present your case, but let's not poke the guys that running their own manufacturing. Hey, how come you have bar on your window? How come you block the exit? That's because they need every square inch. How come there's no light? Because they want to save $2.
Yeah.
Right?
So seek to understand the choices that they're making and the context in which they're in.
Okay, Friday. Ooh. Maya, we're going back to your headquarters in Vietnam. So this is like a big event, right? We look forward to this. I forgot the general manager's name. Big tall guy.
I don't know who the GM is. That's something.
Was it Mike? I think it was Mike.
Yeah.
I think I think it's Mike. And then the local director of government is also a good friend of Portland State. Her son goes to Portland State. Yeah. So it's a great day. I really look forward to that. So Mike and Trey is gonna do their thing, and then they're gonna allow us to see one of their tier 1 factory. Beautiful space. No camera, obviously. And then it will take us until 1 o'clock, and then we'll come back to the hotel, and then you guys gonna be on your own. Okay, and then we have a little lecture for 2 hours to wrap things up the afternoon on Friday afternoon. So that's what you do your presentation. Yeah, it's not on there, but
it will be.
It'll be there. Saturday, this is a trip that we pay for. We'd love you to come, but if you have reasons you don't want to come, that's fine. This is where we take you outside of the city to a very well-known beach. It's called Vũng Tàu. That's where, during the peaceful time, that's where people like to take their families to go there on the weekend. This is a very well-known place. So the ground crew has set up this nice place for us. We go out there and hang out, food will be provided, and then we'll get us back to the hotel by 5 in the afternoon. So that day you're just wearing beachwear, right?
Yep.
Flip-flop, hats, sunscreen, towel.
So 2 things about
Yeah.
this. One is, it's really, I mean, Saigon is an awesome city and it's really good. We'll get out, you'll get, I'm not traveling with you this year, but you'll get out of the city a bit, right, for some of those visits. But this is another great opportunity to see outside of the cities, to see a little bit more of what Vietnam looks like in the rural regions. So that's one of the reasons why this is a choice.
Yeah.
And then 2 is, so I will be sending you just a quick survey or just an email saying, let me know if you're thinking about going. So that we can just take a tentative count. You're not held to that. If you choose not to go in country, all of a sudden you realize you want to have a day for doing something else, that's totally fine. But we're just trying to get a rough estimate of how many folks are probably going to join us on that day. So I'll be sending that soon.
Yeah. So I think this Vung Tau, this is a nice beach town. This is where during the peaceful time, I said a lot of the local wealthy people would go there. The former vice president of South Vietnam, he used to own Manila out there. I know a little bit more than most average crowd. So trust me, this is the place. Nowadays they have a speed ferry boat between Ho Chi Minh City and that town. Okay, so unless you need to make a shirt on a Saturday, hopefully you already take care of that Monday night. Plus, if you make it on Saturday, you won't be able to pick it up until next year. All right, unless you want to go shopping somewhere else, or you don't feel good, or you want to take a day off. Otherwise, I think it's really great. All right, so Sunday we have to get up early. We have to get to the airport for 11:15, so we have to be there 3 hours. Most likely we'll depart at 7:45 in the morning. Get us to the airport. They'll have people on the ground help us check in, make sure we get through the custom, and then we're gonna get to Hong Kong. At Hong Kong, most likely we're gonna run into another group from Portland State, the NBA group. So Shell is gonna try to welcome us by greeting us at our door. I don't think she's gonna make it. Because the airport is so big, how could 2 groups like do this? I don't think so.
She
Right?
told me that and I couldn't figure out how.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
But if you all somehow manage to cross paths,
Yeah.
there needs to be a group photo.
Yeah.
I'm just making a
Okay.
request.
There'll be 30 of them.
There's 41 of them and 26 of you all, so it would be a huge lot of you all.
Yeah, so there'll be a lot of Portland State Vikings out there that day at the same airport. And then we're gonna hang out at the airport for a couple hours. My recommendation is you grab something to eat. Great food, right? Because by the time you get into Beijing, it's pretty late.
So one thing I will just say is, remember you all are traveling with 26 other people plus your 2 faculty. It's a tough travel day, right? Like this is a long travel day. So just be mindful and help each other out in that process in a number of ways, right? So help Daniel and Jay by checking in, by staying with the group as much as possible. We do have stories of leaving students at airports that don't pay attention to what's happening and get lost in the process. It's super hard for the 2 of them to make sure that you all are present. So taking care of yourself is one thing, being within the group as much as possible when you need to be. Obviously, you're kind of on your own. They'll try to stick with you through customs and especially keep an eye on those dynamics, but help them help you, right? If you have questions about it, by all means. The other thing is luggage in between the 2 cities. It's usually a lower rate. I haven't looked specifically at these airlines. I'm nearly positive. It's almost always 44 pounds or 22 kilos is what the limit is. So if you're going to pack more than that, be prepared to pay. It makes it easier rather than struggling through it. And if you're going to be one of those people or you're right on the edge, get in the front of that line as you're checking in, because usually if you have to pay overage fees, you have to go to another counter, right? And then come back. So it's going to be a longer process. So ask your classmates to get to the front of the line so that way you can get that taken care of so you don't get left behind. So.
Yeah. So Sunday is a long day, so make sure you eat at Hong Kong. Hong Kong
That's
food.
As you're saying, I saw in the Narita airport that they have like little places you could go to like get a taste of like Tokyo, where you can see some clothing or
Yeah.
whatever. That's just Hong Kong.
Oh
That's
my
what-
God.
Hong Kong
Yeah.
airport is great.
Oh my
So
God.
we can like feel like the
That's
solid
my
of Hong
former
Kong in this
home
layover.
turf.
Yeah, it depends upon where you're going to, right? Where you get dropped off, where you have to transfer to, how much time. But yeah, the airport is.
Yeah, we have roughly 3 hours. By the time we arrive in Hong Kong, we get out. Let's say we make it to a free space, probably about 4 o'clock. So you have at least good whole hour to eat and look around, right?
There's
It's
lots
the
of
time
shopping.
In
Yeah.
Hong Kong airport, a lot of good restaurants are there, means it just take the, and as the reasonable price.
Take the east side way to pay. Ching, ching.
In terms of immigration, when you go through the process, what are the suggestions?
So a couple things. Great question. One thing is make sure you have your full flight itinerary. I will send you an email to remind you of this as well, but make sure you have your full flight itinerary, all flights with you in your bag, because sometimes they ask. Most of the times they don't, but every once in a while, if you don't have it, then they're just gonna hold you up, basically, right? So that is the most critical thing, because if you're gonna get caught, that's usually what they'll ask. Just be mindful, don't be using phones during that time, right? That's one of the biggest things.
Do they get like the biometrics, and do they ask you like your passwords about it for yourself and things like that too?
Yeah. It's pretty
It's a
typical.
great airport though.
Yeah.
I mean, you should go right there. The one thing I ever had a problem with in this airport was I stuck a corkscrew from the hotel in my bag and I forgot it.
Yeah.
And boy, they came after me. They were pretty nasty.
For having what it looked like a weapon.
It looks like a weapon.
Yeah.
It looks like a weapon.
And it was just one of those 25-cent ones or whatever. And I said, just take it. They wouldn't. They took me. So just be careful with what you
Yeah.
put in your bag.
While you shouldn't be playing with your phones while you're out, make sure that you are texting someone if you get held up in any way. Jay and Daniel will be there to try to pay attention, but I mean, it does happen every once in a while. We haven't had any major faux pas, but by all means, let someone know if you're getting held up for any reason, and they'll do what we can on the other side to help.
We always raced in Hong Kong just to see how long the immigration took. It was.
Hong Kong is fast.
Very easy.
And plus, we're
Yeah.
not really entering Hong Kong.
You're not, yeah.
Yeah, so when we land.
You're gonna go in
There's a
Beijing.
line, you probably just, walk straight, yeah, so they don't even mess around. with it.
I think
Yeah.
you may just have to go through security again,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, but you'll probably go through.
There is a weird security, sorry to get off.
Yeah.
Weird security in Korea. I always think it's bizarre, but
Transfer luggage.
the Japanese are just weird.
But
It's a full.
Luggage in Hong Kong, or it will get transferred.
I think it'll be checked all the way through. It'll be checked all the
Mostly
way
it's
through.
checked all the way through, yeah. Yeah, it's Catholic all the way to.
Yeah.
All right, so next, so now Monday, so because we know you arrived pretty late into the hotel, close to 11, so we're not gonna make you do anything in the morning, but please do get up to eat food, nice breakfast, very good breakfast. Plus we're staying at Grand Hyatt, which is another 5-star hotel, so breakfast couldn't be that bad. Morning free, but don't get lost, because we need to get back, and then we'll take you to American Chamber of Commerce. Okay, in the afternoon, most likely we'll depart at 1 o'clock. So you get up, eat your breakfast, wandering around, maybe grab a quick snack lunch, and then hop on the bus and off we go. Okay, so we will have a pharmacy run first day in Beijing in case you still need more medication. Okay, all right, day 2, busy. This is a very important day. Gotta bring your passport because we'll be on a bullet train. Most likely we'll be starting the day at pretty dang early, right? We'll be 6 something. And you're gonna
6
hate it
something.
because we make you skip the awesome breakfast. We make you carry, we make them give you a breakfast bag, which is not so yummy, but we have to get catch a bullet train all the way from Beijing into Tianjin, which is up in the north. So the first stop we're gonna see once we get there is an awesome ride. It's very quiet, comfortable ride. Once we get to Tianjin, the first place we're gonna go is Boeing 787 composite wing. High-tech stuff is done there. It's crazy, crazy. And if you impress the general manager, he might actually offer you a job. And that's what he did last year. To one of the students. She did not take it. She's married. She couldn't go. Okay, lots of questions. They give you a long tour. In the afternoon, and that's where Jay comes in. Remember Jay used to be the senior VP of Honeywell? So he was able to call his old people to open up this factory for us. So instead of going to Motorola, we're going to go to his former factory. So we're going to get inside view of what's going on. And it's
make thermostats.
Okay, so instead of going to Motorola and going to the port, we'll be going to his former company. Okay? All right, so that's Tuesday, and it'll be a long day because by the time we get done, we can take the train back. Who knows? We'll get back 7, 8 o'clock.
So here's a suggestion. On days like this that we know they're going to be long, bring snacks, right? Go to the convenience store, bring snacks. Yes, there's lunch involved, and there are days when we can't control how quickly people are moving through their presentations. So be mindful and kind of have a backup plan, because that's helpful. Because I think this last year we didn't eat lunch until 2 o'clock or 2:30.
People were like, pretty mad. They were pretty mad. There's nothing I can do.
So if you pre-pack some protein bars or something, you have to declare that every time. So, okay. So you
Don't
have to
do
declare
it. As long as it's packaged,
and then-
don't do
I
it.
carry that with me.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just like fruit and nuts that they're not a big fan of. But if I'm packing like granola bars, I don't have to like tell Vietnam and tell Hong Kong.
Nope. Nope.
I think that's
a
a good idea.
gallon-sized bag of that with me when I snort.
Yeah.
And I just graze the whole 3 weeks.
What about coming back? Is the American customs touchy if I try to bring home some like Vietnamese or Chinese snacks in the bag?
Snacks and package is no problem. They still want to bring raw stuff, right?
Right, exactly. So anything
Processed
packaged,
stuff,
you're fine.
No cheese or meats or anything.
Yeah.
No raw stuff. Okay, so Tuesday is a long day, okay? Make sure you remember that. Wednesday, because we know it's a long day, so we're being nice again. Let you sleep in a little bit. Then, afternoon, I think we're gonna start early, is we're gonna walk from our hotel to Forbidden City. Not just walk from that into the outside, but we're gonna go actually inside with tour guide and all that. Tickets ready, walk us in the VIP line, go straight in. Awesome, right? I don't want to miss that. This is a camera moments, you know. Because they only sell how many tickets a day?
I don't remember. How many?
Last year, our student group missed it twice. They were mad. So that's why we learned to buy it this year. So we're not gonna make a mistake twice.
And-
Taking a camera or just the iPhone? from-
I took my iPad with me.
Yeah, you can take that
I'm
there.
taking my camera.
He's a photographer. Pro photographer. Prosumer.
Oh, I didn't know that, Jay. I'm gonna be bugging you after.
So Wednesday, sleep in, eat breakfast, go back and take a nap, and then go for Forbidden City, have fun. Yeah, take lots of pictures, relax. Okay, Thursday, busy day. Thursday, busy day, we're gonna go UPS. I'm afraid my second company visit might give away what the assignment is. So why are we going to an e-commerce company? So JD is one of the leading, just like Alibaba. So we say pending is 80%. I hope we can close because this is really big deal. We can actually go to JD. That would be so much more for our learning, right? We get to see how they do their business. I really want to see it, so I hope they pull it up. All right, so Thursday. Friday morning, Great Wall. Friday. So make sure you got shoes to climb. Shorts. Do they wear shorts?
Yeah,
Shorts.
it'll be warm.
Very warm.
It's gonna be warm both places, so.
Hat, sunscreen, towel.
I was always really hot in Beijing.
Sunscreen, yeah.
Hot,
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
hot.
really
It's
hot.
hot both places.
And it's
You're,
nasty with the pollution.
Yeah. So this is a great place to hike. If it's the same place last year, I think there's only four hot shots that ran both sides of the peak.
oh, yeah.
And then they also, what do they do to get down? They did something crazy to get down.
Yeah, and there's,
Yeah.
it's like a zip line shuttle, and you will have tickets to that. So if you want to take it down, you absolutely can. So you'll just want to, the big thing is ask the guide which way, which I think if you're going to the same section of the wall, then I believe it's to the right
Yeah.
as you're entering. So you want to make sure that you end up to the right to take that down if you wanted to
Yeah.
take that
So
down.
those
as well.
adventure people, you take the cable car, go up, and then you're gonna hike your left all the way to the peak very quickly. But I don't hike. I go through, I sit there and I sit. I wait for 3 hours. That's where I am, okay? You guys come back, I take picture, I give you a high five, you run like hell over there, the other side, right?
Yeah.
And then they do some crazy stuff to get down. I don't want to know. But for those of you less adventurous, you come back to the middle and you take the cable car down.
It is safe. You have tickets for it. Daniel's making it sound like it's
really fun,
unapproved.
though. I
It's
think
totally
only
fun.
four young guys did it last year. It says right. So I wasn't gonna try. Okay, so we're gonna come back. You guys can be dead tired, right? But we insist that we would like to have a farewell dinner. Such an awesome 2 weeks spending great time together. So we're gonna have a farewell dinner that evening. I don't know where they're gonna take us. Hopefully there'll be something called picking back. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe
You got
not.
to tell Zora.
Exactly. And then Friday, we have to get up early again, to make the 11:20, will probably roughly about 8 o'clock to get out to the airport. And then off we go.
If not earlier. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little ways to the airport in Beijing.
Yeah, it could be 7:30.
Did you determine the number of passengers based off of the,
Yep. So,
because I'm not going with the, like, I didn't book it with the same days, but I'm going on that flight.
yeah, and that's totally fine. So if you're leaving close to there, there's a couple folks that are leaving close to that 11:20 flight. I think there's someone 10:40. You're welcome to join the bus. You'll just want to determine if the bus is getting there early enough for you and you can join that bus. I think there's about 11 of you, and I actually have it on my PowerPoint presentation, how many folks are going. And they'll double check with you in country who's expecting to get on the bus. But critical thing that I will say, and that is that you're responsible to get to, so they'll give you times, you'll have this itinerary. If you don't show up to the meeting point at that time, people aren't going to go looking for you a ton, right? So if you miss the day, what they'll do is they'll always leave the address at the front desk. So that way, if you need to take a taxi to join and you miss it, but the idea is that you're kind of responsible for yourself and making sure that you get to the buses and everything on time to join the group. So, yeah.
Yeah, last year, unfortunately, during the Great Wall Day, there was 2 students, former students, due to communication, they missed the bus, but they were so eager, they held the taxi.
How long of a drive is it?
It was a long drive.
Every hour.
I will tell you, I took a taxi, I used to take taxis to the Beijing airport all the time. And they don't necessarily speak English.
Yes.
Yeah.
They dropped me off at the wrong terminal. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a very big deal, and I almost missed my flight. And I got like super status on Delta, and that was the only thing that saved me. So if you take a cab to the airport,
I don't want to take a cab there.
just be
I don't want that
mindful.
bus.
Yeah, but, hopefully it's the same person. Jerry, we request that Jerry be our guy again in Beijing. He's a very nice guy. So I think last year he did out his own goodwill, right? So for Saturday, some of the folks that were having late Friday afternoon, after he took us to the airport, he was gonna go back and take care of the other trip on his own. No one's paying him. Of course, when I, few of us, when we left Beijing, we give him some coffee money, right? So.
Is it considered appropriate to bring like small gifts for the guides?
Absolutely. So great question. And let's let's launch into, yes. And you all, I will equip these two with gifts generally.
No hats.
No hats, no green hats.
No green hats. Seriously.
It's culturally inappropriate
Yeah, no
in
green
China.
hats. Yeah. Asia,
So no
green
PSU hats. And if you want to bring extra gifts for folks that go above and beyond for you, including the guides, that would be excellent. Gift giving culture there is obviously huge. So we'll be doing that on behalf of the group. I assume these two will probably assign you all, distribute gifts, and have you all present that, because it's always nice to come from the students to our presenters in country. So I'm sure you all will walk them through that in country. But absolutely bringing small gifts, small Portland gifts if you need ideas. Made in Oregon's a great place, so that's where a lot of our gifts will come from as well. So
do we want to talk about why no green hats?
Why no green hats? You tell them what. And
Green
does
hats
anyone know the
Asian-
significance of green hats?
Green hats? Green hats? You know green hats?
Yeah, I know, but maybe my.
It might be
The
different.
interpretation is so different.
Interpretation may be different.
Yeah, you know green hats?
I know.
You don't know green hats? You know green hats?
Means your wife's cheating on you?
Yeah.
You got it.
No.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's
the
right.
white chicken,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep, no green hats.
Yep.
Yeah. Really
What
bad.
does it mean for women?
Oh.
Don't let your wife give you a gift that's sad.
Don't bring that home for the husband.
You want to make a fun joke with your internal husband? That's fine, but you know. Anyhow, all right.
So lodging, you all have seen the lodging. Have you even taken a look? They're really nice hotels.
Oh my God.
So the Caravella, a little something to know about the Caravella, it also has historical significance for the U.S. It's where during the war, U.S. journalists stayed. So you're also directly across the street from the Rex Hotel, which is where the government officials stayed, U.S. government officials stayed. So you're right in the heart of some incredible old buildings. You're directly across the street from the Opera House as well.
And the Opera House used to be the Congress, was former Vietnam. That's where the politicians used to debate stuff. So it's really the midst of the most important part of Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah. So any questions about the hotels themselves? I know a lot of people have questions sometimes. There's a gym facility, there is a pool, there's also a spa in the hotel. The Caravella is by far my favorite. Their staff is the most helpful staff. So if you need anything while there, don't hesitate to ask the concierge or anyone there. They're super helpful. Have you stayed there before? You were like shaking.
So we don't drink the water, but it's okay to swim in the water, it's okay to shower.
Yeah, I mean, they treat the water, and you'd probably be fine with water. One is it's not going to taste good to you, right? Based on what you're used to. Two is, yeah, you're probably just tempting your stomach to start.
That's true for both.
Yeah. I mean, I've been fine swimming in the pool. They treat it just like we would treat them here. So they're killing most of the things there. So I wouldn't hesitate for the spa there. I would hesitate maybe elsewhere, but not at the Caravella.
So two things to plug in for Caravella Hotel. The workout room is great.
Mhm.
And then the massage facility is great. Very inexpensive.
Yep. Yeah.
So for ladies and for me, I'm kind of man wanting to get pampered. So I do take full advantage of that. It's almost half price, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even find just as nice spas. I mean, the hotel is going to be slightly more expensive than some of the spas outside. So if you wanted to ask the concierge for directions and you wanted to pay even less, you could absolutely go outside of the hotel as well. But it's the idea is we stay in nice places for not just because they're nice, but also because for a lot of folks, some of you have traveled a ton, some people haven't traveled a ton. So we like to give people a nice, safe space to rest at night. And then you feel a little more apt to explore because we want you to explore, right? So that's the idea. They're also in central locations that it'll be super easy to walk around and one, go shopping, two, find convenience stores, find anything, food, both are in central locations for that purpose. So a little bit more. So you all know that you're double occupancy unless you requested otherwise. If you have any changes to that, we're kind of past that point. So if you need to add anything additional, let us know as early as possible so that way we can help you and see if there's still capacity. I will be posting the rooming list if you didn't request a roommate to D2L before the end of the week. So you can take a look on there. So arriving in Saigon, as we mentioned, it'll be the most common time, which is that 11:20 p.m. flight on the 20th. So folks that are there, we'll have a list of those folks that are coming in at that time. There are a couple folks that are coming in a little bit earlier than that. So if you're one of those people and you want to say, hey, I'm arriving at 10, but I'd like to just wait for the bus, let us know. We'll make sure to be looking for you. We'll make sure our guide's looking for you and checking off the list. But when you arrive in Saigon, it's super easy to get to the hotel. Unlike in Beijing, where it's a little further out, it's only a 10-15 minute ride to the hotel itself, and it's not expensive. It's about $8 USD, right? So, and generally speaking, taxis are absolutely fine as long as they're marked vehicles, right? So you don't want to get in an unmarked taxi. Should be pretty standard in any international travel, but just a reminder. And otherwise, you're generally fine. You'll want to make sure that they turn on the meter. We will send you a printout, and I'll also have them for those of you that are here and are local. Before we leave, we'll have emergency cards, and it'll also have the address of the hotel, so you can give that to your taxi driver. Taxi drivers will know the Caravel. They'll know it by name. So you can just say Caravel Hotel. They'll get you there.
They speak English.
Some may a little bit, but they'll understand Caravel. So, yep. And then, yes.
Really quick, so if you're arriving in Saigon a couple days early and you're transferring from a different hotel to the Caravel,
yep,
and you don't want to go in at 11:30 at night, what time should we head over?
So it'll be standard 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just give our names, and our names will be assigned.
Yep. You got it.
Okay.
What
You
about
got
passports? Like I know in some countries, they hold the passport.
Yep.
Just have
So
to,
great question. So you will, when you check in, have to offer them your passport at the Caravel at both places.
do they
So
just give it
in,
away, or?
they will bring it back to your room within 10 minutes-ish. They're pretty good. If you want to stand there and wait, they'll let you stand there and wait for it if you get nervous about that, especially if you're arriving earlier. If not, so it's up to you. They will work with you either way. They'll go do what they need to do with it, make a copy, etc., and give it back to you. You just may have to wait. Waiting in the lobby is totally a fine experience there. But you will have to turn over, especially when you get to Beijing, just be prepared to turn over your passport again. I know it's uncomfortable, but it's the only way it works there, so.
But they should also make a photocopy,
Yep.
photocopy, put it in your pocket, both sides, right?
Yes. So we'll talk about that in a second. So departing from Beijing, so as I mentioned, the most common time, I thought I actually had the most common times on here, but apparently I don't. Or maybe it was on one of those. The most common time was, again, that 11:20 a.m. It's funny, it's both. And if you want to catch that bus, you are welcome to catch that bus. I know a lot of people depart later in the day too, but if you just want to get on the bus, because it is a ways to the airport there, you are welcome to do so. Just make sure that someone, I think Daniel will be leaving with you at that point, maybe Jay as well. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Out of Beijing.
Yeah.
Coming home, you know.
Yeah.
So I leave from Beijing the following day.
Mhm.
How do I need to talk to the travel agent, or how do I do I just take a taxi, or?
So where are you going?
Yep.
And Beijing to the park, I leave on Sunday.
So here are your options. So one is guaranteed the hotel will help you get a taxi if you need to get a taxi. So you would just want to ask the concierge to help you in that process. It's going to be, it depends. A lot of people split with other people. There may be other folks that are leaving at the same time. And it's about, they say $22. You know what? My recollection is that it's a little higher than that. Typically it's about $40 to $50. So most folks want to split that. But you can do it, and you definitely want to plan for traffic, right? So they say 40 minutes. I would give yourself longer than 40 minutes to get to the airport. Yeah, exactly. So, pardon?
Exchange, do you?
It's about 6, I haven't looked recently, but it's usually about 6.5-ish.
Like, do you exchange do you suggest like?
We'll talk about that in just a second. Yep, great question. So let's talk about all these things. So packing, let's talk about what factory visits are like in packing. So this is probably the most conservative you'll see from our provider. This is what they suggest for factory visits. And so the critical thing is you are in a ton, especially throughout this program, factory. So for anyone that may have open-toed shoes or otherwise, that's not gonna work in the factory setting. One is the most conservative, and I would definitely recommend for you all, since you're gonna be in so many factories, is making sure that you do have shoes that cover the entire tops of your feet. So for women, if you have like ballet flats, those are fine, but if they're not covering up to almost your ankle, some factories may not love you. So I think the most conservative, if I remember off the top of my head, Daniel can correct me if I'm wrong, is actually that day in Tianjin, the Boeing factory is the most conservative in that way.
I will be
About the same, yeah. And so making sure that one, also not having, for folks that wear heels, not necessarily having heels, because depending upon what you're walking on, sometimes you're gonna be walking on grading, sometimes you're gonna be, so no heels, flats, cover tops of your feet. Make sure that you have at least, yeah, that would be great. Yeah. And you can have more on some of the days. They'll definitely give you, and your guide in country will give you kind of a prep the night before of talking through what the expectation will be the next day. But the other major things is you'll see this, and we'll post this to D2L, is going to be making sure that you do have sleeves. Even though you're going to be comfortable, or you're going to see lots of folks that don't, for factories, when you get into the facilities, you're probably going to need sleeves for a lot of them. That being said, it's going to be super hot. A lot of the factories are also super hot without air conditioning. So make sure that you're, one, well hydrated, two, throughout the program. So that's one of the critical things to remember. If you don't do well in heat, have a plan if you need to step out. I'm trying to remember, I think Mercedes has one room in particular that is
Yeah.
real rough. So thinking about your business attire as trying to find the lightest weight business attire. So linen's great. If you have linen that's professional, is really nice for both places because you're going to be warm. Questions about these? So definitely business casual, not Pacific Northwest business casual, but standard Eastern United States business casual of slacks and button up. So Daniel looks perfect.
Because I was wondering if we had to have neckties. Is that?
No, you don't. You don't. I always recommend being more conservative on it. So bringing, even if you don't think you're going to need a jacket, bring a jacket and a tie. And then that way, if you do find yourself in a scenario where you feel like that's more appropriate, that you have it, right? Bring one if you can. If you don't think you're going to use it the rest of the time, that's fine. You're going to be warm in both locations. And remember that China is going to be more conservative in dress, and especially in color, than Vietnam.
Can we wear what you're wearing?
Yes, with the exception of my shoes in a facility. Yep.
The dress doesn't come down.
That's okay. Yep.
On it.
Yep.
Now, men with long sleeve shirts.
Mm-hmm. They are saying that. So I will tell you that.
Or Honeywell will not. They won't.
Yeah, and so a lot of them won't. So here's the, again, this is going to be the most conservative end, right? There are going to be a lot of places, and what we definitely recommend is, like Daniel was saying, that the golf like shirts, moisture wicking, and polo based shirts can totally, as long as they don't have major logos from your companies on them, they're nicer, more professional based polo shirts, totally fine for the majority of places. So you'll get that guidance from your local ground guide every day. But I think that's going to be more often than not fine. There's going to be a couple of places that are going to be on this more conservative side of things. Is that helpful? And then during the days, during your free time, definitely bring what you're going to be comfortable in. Again, it's going to be super hot, right? And then if you're going to be going to temples or other places, always bringing some sort of cover up. If you're going to be sleeveless is just a smart thing to always have, right? So yeah. Any other packing dress-based questions yet? No, makes sense. I mean, bring walking base shoes. So dress expectations. We kind of talked about professionalism. I mean, the biggest thing is you're representing PSU, being mindful of those questions that you're asking folks, right? These executives, and that's really why it takes us so long to get these visits set, is because we're trying to get you in front of the supply chain executives there. So being mindful of that and making sure to show reverence and regard for the fact that they are taking time out of their day to meet with us. I'm sure you all will be fine, but just always say. Luggage concerns, I think we talked about that a little bit. The lowest end, most of you flying out will be at, the limit will be 50 pounds, but then that intra-program flights, if you will likely be 44 pounds as far as your weight limit. So yeah, it's fun. Money, so money is the next thing. So I definitely recommend getting out at least a little bit of local currency before you go, especially if you're arriving in Saigon early, which for Vietnamese dong, you do need to order it ahead of time. You can, Vietnam in particular, you can use USD, like you could give a taxi driver some USD. It's kinder, I mean, although it's good for the economy, I definitely prefer to have foreign, some of the local currency with me, especially so let's talk about tipping culture a little bit. Used to not be super tippy, if you will, has changed a little bit. So tips are, especially if folks are helping you get set up in the hotels, your taxi drivers, tips are appropriate. A small amount for a tip, usually, I mean, it can be super small, like less than 10%, but you do want a tip. So that's why I prefer to have local currency with me so that you have that on hand when you first get there. You absolutely can and should use ATMs. Not carrying too much cash with you is a great idea, just because it's risky, and ATMs are fine, but as a general rule, don't use the ATMs in airports. If anything's going to be hit, if any ATM is going to be hit by a scam, I mean, you can always pull and yank, and see if you pull something out, a reader from them, but I just don't use ATMs in airports as my general rule. But so if you're going to use double checking with your banks, making sure that you put travel notices on your cards that you plan on using while you're there. And ATMs are fine. There are ATMs near both hotel locations. So that's super easy to access. Most of the hotels will also exchange currency as well. If you bring USD, you're probably not going to get the best rate there, but you can ask the concierge where to exchange if you wanted to do it that way as well. I usually just bring at most a couple $100s for either location, but it's totally based on your own spending habits. You could spend as little or as much depending upon what you want to do in those places. Questions about those things? No? Yes.
Approximately how much the expenses, apart from the personal purchasing, just the idea, just an idea.
How much are you going to need?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a good portion of your lunches are covered. Your breakfasts are absolutely covered. So then what you're paying for out of pocket is predominantly dinners, right? Some of your lunches are not covered. There are some days where we kind of let you loose, or they let you loose. I keep saying we. Let you loose to grab your own food and then come back and get together, just continue with the day. But it's probably 70% of your lunches, I think. And it'll be in the itinerary once Daniel posts this to D2L, it'll be laid out in the itinerary whether lunch is provided or not, so you can take a look at that. But so generally speaking, again, in Vietnam, I can eat for $5 and be thrilled, and or I could spend $20 and have a really nice meal. So then you're there for 7 days, so that's kind of your expectation. Beijing's about the same. I mean, $10 is probably what I would expect at the lower end, or you could spend a lot and have some really awesome Peking duck like Daniel likes.
Is it good to carry 200 or 500, whatever?
I would go more on the 200 end than the 500 end personally, for either location. Yeah, and use ATMs. So that you're not carrying too much, because we have had incidents where people lose money or think they've lost money in country. So depending upon what your foreign transaction fees are on your cards, I encourage you to take a look at that. A lot of times it's easier. I mean, you definitely want cash in both locations, but ATMs are.
What there is the card here I use. Will it work there?
Yep. Yeah, but for example, in Vietnam, most of the food places, you can use them there, but they're more adept at using currency. So.
But last time I went to China, my card they didn't accept. I bought some food in McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
In the airport, they pay cash.
Huh.
They didn't accept.
Did you alert your bank before you went?
No, they don't take it. They didn't try.
They didn't try, yeah. Yeah. Most places do, especially in Beijing, a little less common in Ho Chi Minh. They'll want you to pay cash there most of the time. For example, if you go to the tailor and you're wanting to purchase something, you're going to want it. They're going to ask you to pay cash. So.
And the money exchange you do it in the airport?
You can. Most of the time, you don't get the best rates in the airport, though. So if you're going to exchange at AAA, Wells Fargo, Chase, any of those are you're going to get better rates there.
Where do you know who your bank is? Who you bank with?
I have a bank in Federal and Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo?
Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is one of the better. Yep.
Make sure you give yourself time. Don't say, hey, tomorrow I'm leaving. I want some foreign exchange. That's not happening.
Yeah, totally. So phones, we talked a little bit about. I'll be sending out a survey about those. But again, yes, the expectation from an emergency standpoint is that you are all reachable via phone, at least via text. Usually I would like to have voice as well, so that if anything happens, we can. And so we'll be collecting that in the phone survey, what phone number you expect to be at. If you don't have it yet because you're going to be purchasing a burner, just let us know, and Daniel will post that to D2L, so you'll just need to update that when you do get that phone number so that we have that for everyone. A couple other quick things. I know we're over time already, so I'll speak quickly and only answer questions that you actually want me to answer. So we do purchase travel insurance for everyone for the trip. For the duration of the trip, you can extend that insurance as well if you're traveling more before and after and want that insurance. It's pretty comprehensive insurance. You'll get the info on it. I'll post it to D2L, kind of the plan information. The big thing to know is that you will be getting a card in your email and it'll come from announcement@gallaghercostar.com. I'll let you know when I think it's come, so that way you can double check, because it does go to spam folders a lot of the times. But if you're like a week out and you haven't gotten it, by all means, scream. The good thing is that we're all on the same policy number, so even if you don't, but the expectation is that you print out that card, it'll come via email, you print it out and you carry it with you. That's your insurance. It also covers, for example, in emergency situations, repatriation should we need it in certain emergency scenarios. So just know that's there. How it works in country is if you had to access health services while you are in country, the way it works is that you actually pay upfront for those services. So you will want to bring some additional, if you had exorbitant amount of fees that you wouldn't be able to cover yourself. That's something the university can step in on, and we have done before. But generally speaking, if you're just accessing basic medical services, you pay up front, you come back, and we file a claim, and you get 100% back up to $200K. So it's pretty comprehensive insurance. And everyone's on the same policy number, so just know that's there. So it's pretty easy if you don't have your own card to access that. You don't actually usually need to access that for any reason, but you do want to start that claim when you're in country. Yep, that's all. Any questions about that? The insurance policy. I highly recommend, and my dear colleague Tichelle, the director of the MBA program, would remind me to tell you all that to look at the exclusions of the insurance policy, for example. We're going to talk about traffic in Ho Chi Minh City in just a second, and whether it actually covers motorcycle rides or not, scooter rides or not. So you should check out, based on how adventurous you are, what those exclusions are as well. So a couple things is that, so we're going to talk about the emergency plan in 2 seconds. So things that are your responsibilities on the trip is becoming familiar with the emergency plan. We'll post it to D2L. As I mentioned, we're going to make some cards that will be available. We'll also email you those cards if you want to print them out yourselves. We highly recommend, and not highly recommend, the expectation is that you carry it with you. What it will have on there, we'll talk about in just a second, so as to why you want it on you. The other thing is that you carry your insurance card with you at all times. So these are things you'll want to do. You will want to maintain your travel documents and double check them. So for passports, as Daniel was mentioning earlier, actually by law in China, you should be carrying around your passport with you at all times. That makes most people nervous. I agree. I would be nervous too. So what I do, or what I highly recommend you do, is make a copy of your passport. The best thing to do if you want to be on the up and up is get that copy notarized. So that way, that's what you carry with you rather than your passport itself. You do not want to be caught in China without a copy, at least a copy of your passport on you if you were arrested in any capacity. So that is critical. It's less critical in Vietnam, but I definitely recommend always. I usually like to have a copy of my passport on my phone, so that way if I need to access it in whatever scenario I'm in, I have it. Otherwise, in Vietnam, I definitely recommend you choose your strategy for making sure that you're not caught without ID in China. But in Vietnam, I would throw it in, make sure that you have access to a copy of it or to some identification, but then throw it in the safe of the hotel and lock that safe. Any questions about travel documents, what you typically do, but that is critical to know.
In Hong Kong, and I had copies of everything, and I got American Express, and Visa took care of me.
Yep.
And so did the U.S. Embassy.
Yep. So a lot of people, and the best practice would be to have copies of literally every card that you have in your wallet. Yep. And have that in a safe location. So these two get to, and they have access to copies of your passports. That's why we collect them. If you upload, like we'll remind you, copies of your visas, we'll also have access to that. They have that remotely and in another form. We give them a couple different options for just in case anything happens to you. They also have access to that, but you having it on you is critical. The other thing is making sure, so you'll be checking in with Jay when you get in. So that means for those of you that, and he'll really be checking with the hotel to make sure that you're checked in. But the critical thing is for us here at PSU, we need to know that everyone has arrived safely and that everyone departs safely, right? So we will check in, and the Office of International Affairs checks in just to make sure no one's stuck in rent somewhere. So make sure that if you get there earlier or you haven't checked in or haven't left a note for Jay, to somehow leave a note for Jay so that way he knows and has record of who's there. Yes. Yeah. So carry a working cell phone, as we mentioned, report alternative travel, which is less critical for you all. But the big thing is that during that optional day in Ho Chi Minh, If you're choosing to go outside of the city in some capacity, to post that on D2L or to send Jay an email letting him know where you are, just in case anything happened that day, right? That way we have record, we know where you are, we know where we should be looking for you. So I think that's the only day that's really critical there, but if you're going out of the city is the critical part, to make sure to let people know. You're under student code of conduct and ethical travel realities. We do always reserve the right to send people home if someone is violating those realities. We haven't done it yet, so I trust you all. So what will be on the emergency plan, and this will be posted to D2L, as you can see, it's still in process a little bit, and what will be on the emergency card? Yes.
Those should be our cell phone, not the desk.
Correct.
Those are desk numbers.
Oh, that is your desk number. I put the wrong number in here. Yeah, that's Jay's correct one. I'll get Daniel's updated. Sorry, I didn't even notice that when I put that in there earlier. But we'll get that updated. And so you'll have their cell phone numbers. You're also going to have 2 local phone numbers for the guides in country as well that will be with you in each location. So should you have anything, and these will, all 4 of these will be on the emergency card that we'll both send to you and have available at the office before you leave. And should anything happen, this is your first point of contact, right? And they will initiate and communicate among them. We'll always loop in our local guide for expertise and help in the process. So the big thing is, should anything, once again, knock on wood, we haven't hit any major disasters, although we've come close. The first year I actually traveled with one of our programs was the year that the earthquake happened in Japan, and we had just left 3 days previous to that. So we were darn lucky. But so nothing's happened yet, but just be aware. So we just talk about it ahead of time. So should anything happen, first point is 1, get in contact with your folks. 2, get to a safe location. The first safe location that we recommend is the hotel lobby of the place that you're staying at. That's where you'll reconnect with everyone. If that is unavailable or unattainable, the next place is the U.S. consulate in each location. So the emergency cards will also have this information, the phone numbers and the addresses for these places so that you have it on you. Why the U.S. consulate? Not all folks are U.S. passport holders. However, we do register everyone with the Department of State for the university. So that would be the first place that the university would start looking for us if they couldn't find us in our program locations. So, and then there would be, and Daniel and Jay would have a phone chain started. They would be trying to locate each one of you, right? So, of course, thinking about the major modes of communication, it's going to be phone first. If not, they're going to be emailing you if they can get to email to check in to make sure everyone's okay. If not, they'll also do D2L. If you all choose a social media forum such as WeChat or something like that, then they'll access that as well. So that's something I highly recommend if someone wants to initiate and choose a platform for you all. It's usually useful. And that's pretty much it. So we would be looking for you in all those places. Any other questions?
Mine's in regard to visas.
Yes. I forgot to.
Yeah, I've not sent out for my Vietnam one yet.
Okay.
I was trying to verify price.
Yes.
I called them and they said $160, and on the site you guys said it's like $50. So I just wanted to.
Yes, great question, and I thank you for the reminder because I meant to check in about visa realities. So, yes, it's $25 or $50. The end. They're wrong. They're telling you something because they're assuming that essentially that you don't have a ground team that has already done the upfront work of registering you with the consulates there. We've done that, right? So that's what that letter is that provides. So it's going to be that $25 or that $50. If they tell you anything otherwise, let us know and don't pay it.
Yeah, that's why I haven't done
Yep. Yep. But they reached out. You paid,
I called and they said $80, because I looked
Did you?
online and it said that the prices had gone up. But I also got the visa back in a week and the feeling of having all my paperwork.
Yeah, totally. If you don't mind, just send me an email because we're actually following up with them. No promises, right? Foreign government, they may or may not listen at all to us, probably not. And it's totally dependent upon the agent that you get who's processing your stuff, what they say. That's just the fun of travel, right?
Yeah, like you, I want my documents, so I've been bugging her for months. Literally bugging.
Yeah. But yes, so, but I highly recommend to reach out to us before you actually go through and pay that fee, even if they tell you it's $80, because that's usually what they'll tell you.
Yeah, they told me double that, so. Must have gone up again.
Yeah, but that letter that we offered means that we've done the upfront work that they are trying to charge us for, is essentially what it means.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, I applied for the Vietnam visa when I got the letter from your side. Then next day morning, they called me up and said, I need $50 more, means the balance amount.
Yeah,
Then they asked my
55.
credit card number. Then they saw the remaining amount. But I got the visa after 2 days.
yeah. They're super, yeah. Vietnam just wants your money, right? Like it's different in different visa processes, what they want, if they actually want to check things or not.
Yeah.
They just want your money.
I'm asking them, shall I contact them?
So no, if you just email me, because we're just following up, like their ground team, our ground team wanted to follow up with the consulate regardless and say, these are the people who you overcharge. No guarantee anything will come of that, so I apologize. But if you email me, then I'll put you on that list.
I saw your email yesterday.
Good.
Yeah, don't mess around with embassy.
Yeah, I
The one
mean,
that was pleasant trip going to Vietnam and China. Don't.
Yeah.
we're beholden to them, right? That's the reality. You want to go? That's
That's a
how it
game.
rolls.
That's a game.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
That's a game. It's a game.
Yeah.
Silly game.
Any other visa questions?
I'm gonna have to go get a leader.
Yeah.
You don't defeat them. That's just-
Any other logistics questions?
Oh, you actually do. All right, good? All right.
I'll be there the 13th,
Yeah.
and then I'm going out wandering, but I'll be there the 13th.
I think you arrived earlier than everyone, from what I've seen.
I'll arrive there on Thursday night. Yeah, coming Thursday night because I have a factory to visit. One of my students, former students, own a factory that I've been trying to get through see. And then I got a few other students to hang out. Yeah, one works, but I need this.
It's okay. Are you done recording?
Yes, I can.
So Asia Prime